Washington, D.C. Senate Budget Committee Hearing Room. 9:17 a.m. The room felt different that morning. Normally, these oversight sessions drew maybe 30 people, a handful of lobbyists in expensive suits, board staffers scrolling on phones. One or two reporters live-tweeting budget minutiae for an audience that barely existed. But not today. Today the gallery was packed, 200 citizens deep. They had come from Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, some driving through the night on Greyhounds and carpools. They wore factory jackets, church dresses, jeans with honest scuffs, steel-toe boots that had seen real work. C-SPAN's wide shot caught it all. The ticker at the bottom of the screen simply read, Oversight. Today the gallery was packed, 200 citizens deep. They had come from Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia, some driving through the night on Greyhounds and carpools. They wore factory jackets, church dresses, jeans with honest scuffs, steel-toe boots that had seen real work. C-SPAN's wide shot caught it all. The ticker at the bottom of the screen simply read, Oversight. At the witness table sat Senator JD Vance, looking every inch the carefully curated image he had spent a decade perfecting. Brooks Brothers suit, expensive but modest, muted blue tie, gleaming American flag pin, and those $300 leather work boots that were suspiciously clean. A sleek leather portfolio embossed in gold with Unstoppable America lay in front of him. Next to it, a copy of his memoir, strategically propped for the cameras. He looked relaxed, confident. This was his stage. Across from him, at the committee bench, sat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Democrat, Texas. Navy blue suit, crisp white blouse, small pearl earrings, no other jewelry. On the desk in front of her rested 3 thick, black binders, still closed. She hadn't opened a single page, hadn't shuffled a document, hadn't taken a note. She simply watched Vance with the calm, unblinking focus of a former prosecutor who had spent years cross-examining hostile witnesses. Chairman Richard Blumenthal, DCT, called the hearing to order. Good morning. We are here to examine the implementation and oversight of pandemic-era relief funds, specifically private charitable initiatives that supplemented federal programs. Senator Vance, you have been called to testify regarding Unstoppable America, the relief fund you created that claims to have distributed over $8.7 million to Ohio families in crisis. The floor is yours. Vance leaned into the microphone with practiced earnestness. Chairman Blumenthal, members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity. When COVID hit, I watched my home state suffer. I saw people I grew up with lose jobs, businesses, hope. Grandparents choosing between groceries and medicine. Single mothers working 3 jobs just to keep the lights on. I thought, I have resources. I have connections. I can help. He gestured toward the gallery where several supporters had been strategically seated. So, I did what Americans do when government fails them. I built something. Unstoppable America wasn't just a fund. It was a movement. We raised $8.7 million from patriotic private donors who believed in helping their neighbors. We provided direct aid, supported small businesses, funded mental health programs. We cut through government red tape and got help straight to people who needed it. Efficiently.
No bloated bureaucracy. No consultant skimming cuts.
Just real help for real people. His voice rose with rehearsed emotion. That's what builders do. That's what America needs more of. Then his tone darkened. But I know why I'm really here today. This is an oversight. This is politics. It's about people in this chamber who've never built anything trying to tear down those of us who have. He turned his gaze directly on Crockett. We have too many politicians in Congress who sound like Barack Obama. Great speeches, soaring rhetoric, all that hope and change poetry, but zero results. The Congresswoman from Texas is a perfect example, a less intelligent Obama knockoff. All talk, no substance. She preaches about democracy, while people in her own district can't afford rent. She's never built a business, never made payroll, never faced the tough calls that actually help people. A smug half-smile. America doesn't need more preachers. We need builders. That's the difference between my philosophy and hers. A few of his planted supporters clapped on cue. Most of the gallery sat stone-faced. Chairman Blumenthal raised an eyebrow. Congresswoman Crockett, the senator seems to suggest you do not authentically represent working people and lack the substance to question him. Your response? The room fell into a hush. Cameras zoomed tight on Crockett's face. She set her pen down deliberately. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Senator, for that very thorough character assessment. Her tone was calm, almost conversational, the kind of calm that makes people lean forward. You referenced President Obama. You're right, I do admire him, but probably not for the reasons you think. President Obama once said democracy isn't about performing power. It's about listening to people and serving them. It's about climbing into someone's skin and walking around in it. It's about building institutions from the bottom up, not using people's pain as props for political ambition. She leaned forward slightly. He also said leadership means accountability. Service requires sacrifice. So yes, Senator, I do try to follow President Obama's example, not by copying his speeches, but by following his principles. Evidence over rhetoric, service over performance, accountability over brand management. Her voice sharpened just enough. You talked about building things. You cited your charity, our Ohio Renewal, and your relief fund, Unstoppable America, as proof that you help people. You said you cut through red tape, that you're a builder, not a talker. She reached for the first black binder. The clasp clicked open, a small sound that somehow echoed like a gunshot in the silence. So, let's examine what you actually built, Senator. With evidence. She lifted a thick document and held it up for the cameras. This is a Freedom of Information Act response from the Federal Trade Commission concerning our Ohio Renewal, the charitable foundation you established in 2016 to combat the opioid crisis, a cause you said was close to your heart because your own mother struggled with addiction. I don't doubt that pain was real. She locked eyes with him. But let's look at what your charity actually accomplished. From 2016 to 2021, our Ohio Renewal raised a grand total of $102,000. Of that, $80,000 came from your own personal donation, later claimed as a tax deduction. The charity's only notable accomplishment was funding a one-year medical residency for Dr. Sally Saddle in Ironton, Ohio. Dr. Saddle is a psychiatrist and resident scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. That name ring a bell? Vance shifted uncomfortably. I'm not sure what you're implying. I'm not implying anything. I'm stating facts documented by ProPublica and IRS filings. She pulled the next page. Dr. Saddle has long-standing financial ties to Purdue Pharma, the company widely blamed for fueling the opioid crisis with OxyContin. Purdue funded her studies, shared drafts of her articles before publication, and donated $800,000 to AEI during her tenure. So your anti-opioid charity's sole achievement was paying a doctor financially connected to the very company that caused the crisis you claim to fight. Incompetence, Senator, or something else. In the gallery, Margaret Sullivan, a 63-year-old widow in her Sunday navy dress, clutched a manila envelope tighter. Crockett continued. In its first full year, our Ohio Renewal spent 63% of its budget on management fees paid to your political advisor Jai Chabria, more than it spent on actual programs. In its final 3 years, it raised less than $50,000 annually, conveniently below the IRS disclosure threshold. The website went dark. The Twitter account posted twice and died. When journalists asked for your needs assessment survey, you provided none. She closed the first binder with a sharp snap. A Columbia University nonprofit expert reviewed your filings for Business Insider. His exact quote, "This is a charade." Not my words, his. Vance's face flushed crimson. We tried our best. The key organizer was diagnosed with cancer. How convenient, Crockett said flatly, opening the second binder. Let's move to your more recent venture, Unstoppable America. The room grew so quiet you could hear camera shutters. In March 2020, you announced Unstoppable America on every major network, claiming it would bypass bureaucracy and deliver relief directly to forgotten Ohioans. You tweeted, and I quote, "We have already distributed $8.7 million. Very specific number. She held up the tweet printout, then set it down and lifted a 400-page forensic audit. This is an independent audit commission by the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland. Would you like to know what they found? Vance said nothing. Unstoppable America was registered as a Delaware LLC, perfect for shielding ownership and operations. The board consisted of you, 2 Peter Thiel employees, and 1 partner from your own VC firm, Naria Capital. The fund received $6.8 million in donations, not $8.7 million. Of that, $4.2 million, over 60%, was categorized as administrative and consulting expenses. She listed them slowly. Palantir Technologies, Thiel's company, $1 million for data management. Founders Fund, another Thiel entity, $700,000 for strategic advisory. 3 additional Thiel network firms, payments ranging from $200,000 to $600,000 each. She looked up. So you raised money supposedly for struggling Ohio families, then routed $4.2 million of it to companies owned by your biggest political donor, Peter Thiel, who 2 months later donated $15 million to your Senate campaign. That's not charity, Senator. That's a kickback scheme wearing a patriotic t-shirt. Vance barked defensively. Those were legitimate consulting expenses. Were they? Crockett asked, opening the 3rd and thickest binder with almost ceremonial care. For the first time, she allowed herself a small prosecutor's smile. Because I have the actual list of people who received aid from your fund. All 127 of them. Would you like to hear their names? She turned toward the gallery. Mr. David Chen, would you please stand? A nervous but composed middle-aged accountant in the 4th row rose. Mr. Chen, why are you here today? Chen cleared his throat. I applied to Unstoppable America in April 2020 when my small business was collapsing. In June, I received an approval letter promising $25,000. I never received a penny. I called 37 times. The number eventually disconnected. So I filed a FOIA request for the beneficiary list and cross-referenced it myself. With committee staff help, his spreadsheet appeared on the hearing room screens. Of the 127 listed beneficiaries, 68 are deceased. Some died before the fund even existed. 31 never applied. I spoke to them personally. 28 received partial payments far below what was promised. The rest, like me, got approval letters and nothing else. Gasps swept the gallery. Crockett's voice cut through the noise. Senator Vance, are you saying a licensed CPA with no political affiliation fabricated this data? Vance looked helplessly at his aide, who frantically shook his head. I'd need to review his methodology. His methodology is basic accounting: credits, debits, deposits, withdrawals. Your fund took in $6.8 million, paid $4.2 million to Thiel-linked firms, and only $1.3 million, 19%, ever reached real people. Where did the rest go? At that moment, Margaret Sullivan stood, trembling with age and fury. Senator Vance, she said, voice cracking, my name is Margaret Sullivan, Ironton, Ohio. My husband died of black lung in 2018. The medical bills nearly broke us. This is the letter your fund sent me approving $50,000 in relief. It has your signature. I waited. I called 34 times. I prayed. I had to choose between blood pressure pills and food. I believed you. Tears streamed down her cheeks. Where is my $50,000? The room was tomb silent except for her ragged breathing. Crockett spoke gently. Mrs. Sullivan, may committee staff collect that letter for the record? A staffer took the letter, passed it forward. Crockett held it up to the cameras. Official Unstoppable America letterhead, Vance's reproduced signature, dated May 15, 2020. Senator, would you like to answer her question? Where is her $50,000? Vance's voice cracked. I'd have to look into her specific case. We processed hundreds of applications. Margaret's voice rose, fierce. It's been 3 years. You had time to run for Senate, time for Fox News hits, time to sell books. Where is my money? Another voice from the gallery. Where's mine? Then another. And another. Chairman Blumenthal pounded the gavel, but the dam had burst. Then one voice, deep and commanding, silenced the room. Reverend Jerome Williams stood, clerical collar crisp, cane resting against his knee. Senator Vance, you came to my church in Youngstown. You stood in my pulpit. You told my congregation about your mama's addiction, about your mama who raised you. You said you understood our pain. I believed you. I endorsed your fund. 20 families from my church applied. 20, Senator. Not one received $1. I put 50 years of ministry behind your name.
And you used me.
You used my people's hope. He sat down slowly, looking suddenly older. No one spoke. Crockett let the silence do its work. She had learned long ago that sometimes truth needs no embellishment. Finally she spoke, quiet but firm. Senator Vance, we have testimony from Mrs. Sullivan, forensic accounting from Mr. Chen, witness accounts from Reverend Williams, audits proving millions routed to your donors' companies while real people waited for checks that never came. She closed all 3 binders, the sound final. You came here today and called me an Obama knockoff. You said America needs builders, not preachers. So let me channel President Obama one last time because he understood something you clearly do not. She turned to the cameras, knowing millions were now watching live. Democracy isn't about performing power. It's about serving people. It's about remembering that behind every statistic is a human being with hopes and fears. Leadership means accountability. Service requires sacrifice. She gestured toward the gallery. Mrs. Sullivan is not a line on a spreadsheet. Mr. Chun is not a data point. Reverend Williams is not a photo op. They are Americans who believed you. Her voice hardened. President Obama delivered health care to 20 million people. He delivered an economic recovery after the worst recession in 80 years. He delivered DACA, the Auto Rescue, the Recovery Act. He could name thousands whose lives were measurably better. She turned back to Vance. What have you delivered, Senator? She let the question hang. You founded a charity that accomplished nothing except paying a Purdue-linked doctor. You created a relief fund that funneled millions to Peter Thiel's companies while widows waited for money that never came. You built a brand on helping the forgotten, but the only person you helped was yourself. She placed a hand on the binders. Senator Vance, you've spent this entire hearing talking about everything you've built. So I have one simple question. Just one. The room held its breath. Can you name one person, just one, whom your charity or relief fund actually helped? Not a dead person on a list. Not someone approved but never paid. One real human being whose life is better because of your work. Give us a name. Tell us their story. Show us a receipt.
She paused.
Just one person, Senator. Just one. What followed would become known simply as the 47 seconds. C-SPAN's timer captured every excruciating tick. 0:03. Vance opened his mouth, closed it. 0:07. He looked down at his notes. 0:12. He shuffled papers frantically. 0:24. He sipped water, hand trembling. 0:30. Chairman Blumenthal. Senator, do you need the question repeated? 0:35. Vance, we helped many people. The records show. Crockett, softly. A name, Senator. One name. 0:47. Silence. 47 seconds of pure, unfiltered silence that broke C-SPAN viewership records and, within hours, the internet. Vance finally stammered, I'll need my staff to compile that information and submit it to the committee. Crockett tilted her head. You've had this entire hearing to talk about your great work. You brought the branded portfolio, the talking points, the rehearsed story, and you can't name one person. Her voice dropped, almost mournful. Your silence is your answer. Then Vance exploded. He stood so fast his chair screeched against marble. This is a political witch hunt. You've already decided I'm guilty. Crockett unfazed. I haven't decided anything. The evidence speaks for itself. Vance shouted over her. This whole thing is a sham. I won't participate. He stormed out, knocking over his water glass, leaving his glossy, Unstoppable America portfolio abandoned on the table. The camera lingered on it, gold lettering gleaming under the lights. Chairman Blumenthal waited until the door slammed. Mr. Jai Chabria, Please approach the witness table. Vance's political advisor and former charity director took the seat, looking like a man watching his career implode in real time. Blumenthal asked 8 questions about discrepancies, consulting fees, and missing funds. Every answer: on advice of counsel, I invoke my Fifth Amendment right. The 2 Narya Capital Board members who followed did the same.
Fifth.
Crockett addressed the cameras one last time. Let the record reflect these witnesses are invoking their Fifth Amendment rights because they understand criminal fraud charges are forthcoming. Their silence speaks louder than any testimony could. She gathered her binders. Democracy requires transparency. It requires that when we promise to help people, we actually help them. Senator Vance promised help and delivered lies. The evidence is clear. Within 6 hours, the 47-second clip was everywhere. By the next morning, 50 million views on X, 120 million on TikTok. Creators remixed it with ticking clocks and sad violin. The hashtag 47 seconds trended worldwide. Peter Thiel released a statement. I was deeply disappointed to learn of serious discrepancies. I have retained counsel to recover contributions. 3 Republican senators called for a full investigation. The Ohio Attorney General opened a fraud probe. Federal prosecutors subpoenaed every record. Jai Chabria resigned that night. Vance's communications director quit live on CNN, telling Jake Tapper, I can't defend the indefensible anymore. 6 weeks later, in a Columbus high school civics class, a teacher played the clip. A student asked, if he really helped people, wouldn't he remember at least one name? The teacher smiled sadly. Exactly. That's the point. When you truly serve people, you remember them. You know their names. She wrote 4 words on the board. The Crockett question. Name one person you've actually helped. It became a movement. In California, a congressman was asked to name one community that received clean water from his infrastructure nonprofit. Silence. 43 seconds. In Michigan, an auto lobbyist was asked to name one factory worker whose job was saved by the tax breaks he demanded. Silence. In Georgia, a voting restriction advocate was asked to name one documented case of fraud his bill would prevent. Silence. Journalists started ending every interview the same way. Just one name, please. Campaign consultants began drilling candidates on how to answer or dodge the Crockett question. 1 year later, at the Obama Foundation Democracy Forum in Chicago, Jasmine Crockett gave the keynote. In the front row sat Margaret Sullivan, David Chun, and Reverend Jerome Williams. Crockett began with Margaret's story, then clicked to a photo, Margaret holding an oversized check for $28,000, the court-ordered restitution from Unstoppable America's dissolved assets. The crowd erupted. Crockett concluded. 47 seconds of silence taught America something President Obama always knew. You can't fake service. You can't perform integrity. You either do the work or you don't. You either remember their names or you don't. She looked straight into the camera. So, the next time a politician says they fight for you, ask them the simplest, hardest question in democracy. Name one person you've actually helped. Give me their name. Tell me their story. If they can't answer, if they dodge, deflect, or go silent, you already know who they really serve. The standing ovation lasted 5 full minutes. Above Jasmine Crockett's desk in Congress today hangs a framed quote from Barack Obama and, beneath it, 4 handwritten words that changed American politics forever. Name one person you've helped. If you can't, you haven't. That is the Obama standard. That is what accountability sounds like. That is what democracy demands. And it all began with 47 seconds of silence, 3 black binders, and 1 prosecutor who refused to let a brand replace the truth. End of documentary.